A moment to start with this program, please. We're going to give it a big welcome to the first group of speeches. And please give it a big welcome to Anjali, Aditya, Nikhil, and Gita, please.
Take me now.
Hi everyone, I'm Anjali. I was Sakti's college roommate for 3 years. Okay, so Sakti was my first friend in college. In the first week of freshman year, we had a welcome party where the school put on this big extravaganza to welcome all of us new freshmen. And I ran into Sakti. Actually, she ran into me. And she came up to me, and she had somehow already heard of me. I don't know how. But she had heard of me, and then at that moment, she told me that she decided for us that we would be friends. So with someone with her perseverance and strength of character and loyalty, how could I say no to that? And so thus began many long years of friendship. We began to do college right, as we would say. For the untrained eyes, we were pretty studious. We spent a lot of late nights in Bechtel Library, where we appeared to be studying, but we were actually watching Gilmore Girls or on Facebook messaging each other, even though we were sitting right next to each other. We had a lot of sleepovers, especially on our tiny twin bed in our dorm, where she would curl up into a tiny ball in the corner and let me sprawl out and have a good night's sleep. And she never complained, at least not to my face. And then came along Rasika, our third roommate, and the friendship continued to bloom. And we definitely told each other everything, and I mean everything. I was going back into our old messages from 2016, 2017, and I was surprised at the amount of detail we shared with each other. And our favorite topic of conversation was fruit. Yeah, we love talking about fruit. And auntie, uncle, I definitely promise you we mean fruit. I still remember the first time that we discussed apple. And I knew that apple would be very, very special to us.
Hopefully, that's way too close. Well, as Anjali said, and picking up, Sakti was in her senior year. She was thriving, she was living it up. All of a sudden came along Apple. For some context on who I am, Sakti and I were in a college consulting club together called TBG. I was extremely ecstatic to have picked her on my project team because she basically did all of it. In return, as someone who felt the need to big brother her, I pressed on who Apple was. She finally, after a long time, relented and named me. Anup Baliga. Now, I'm sitting here thinking, surely it's not this Anup that I might know. Anup Baliga. There's got to be 3. There's like 14 Aditya Iyengars at Berkeley. There's got to be at least 3 Anups. Was this Anup, the one I had met in my first week at Berkeley, who was a lab TA? Anup helped me pass my first ever lab in computer science. Some would say he's partly the reason I graduated. He also grew up on the East Coast, like me, was from Ohio, had a great group of hometown friends, and I felt a lot of similarities. In my mind, immediate green flags. You're welcome again, Anup, because this is how I put in a great word for you. Naturally, I sat there, I paused for about 30, 45 seconds, and then I blurted out, Anup's incredible. You have to go on a date with him. Sakti could not stop talking about Apple, continuing to call him that. I still don't know to this day why she used a code name. I knew who Anup was. She knew who Anup was. I think maybe the only person who didn't know who Apple was maybe even Anup himself. Moving on. I've gotten to know Anup and Sakti individually as a couple, and fitness is a huge, huge part of who they are. I will never forget Sakti making me run Lake Merritt. Not once, but twice. I tap out at 3 miles. Sakti made me run it twice. I've never done that before. I'm so happy that Anup has permanently stepped into this role, because I will never run that distance again. As I mentioned right before, I knew them each separately and then together at the end of college. They've been incredible friends. They've been highly impactful to me, and most importantly, they push each other to be better. Truly additive, the sum is greater than its parts.
Okay, to continue on with the sentimental part, for me, Sakti and Anoop don't just fit together, but they amplify one another. And I love how Sakti always encourages Anoop to pursue his photography, even though I know she doesn't always like to be a subject. And I love how Anoop always supports Sakti with her fitness journey, even though sometimes begrudgingly he does have to wake up early for it. I love how they not only constantly try to be better for each other, but that they also let themselves be who they are. And I especially noticed this in the early days that we spent with Anoop. At the end of college, I was watching very suspiciously, to see like who is this person that is taking all of Sakti's attention. But I quickly saw that Sakti will always be the Sakti that I know and love, just an amplified version of herself. And I'm so proud that Sakti has found someone who has let her thrive and she has found a love that allows her to be adored just as she deserves, but also a love where she can grow and show her brilliance and also always continue to teach me what it means to be a good partner and a good friend.
Hello, I'm Nikhil.
And I'm Geetha.
And now that we've heard Sakti's side of the story, we are going to tell Anoop's side of the story.
So Anoop has always been someone who puts his whole heart into everything that he does, whether it's photography, his friendships, or Ohio State football. We all know Anoop has passion and would go all in on something if he's a fan. So when it came to love, it was no different. Anoop was looking for something real, something lasting, and someone he could love as much as he loves Tom Brady.
So Anoop and I were friends in college, but we became really, really close when we moved into our apartment together in San Francisco. And the first thing that struck me about Anoop is his consistency and his discipline. I knew that every single morning he would have a banana smoothie for breakfast. I knew that for lunch he would have chicken and veggies Mexican style, and then to spice it up for dinner he would have chicken and veggies American style. I knew that every single night at like 10:35, 10:40 p.m., he would come out, he would be wearing his Ohio State shirt, his flannel pants, and he would say, "All right, good night, boys, I'm going to go to bed," and head to sleep. But Anoop also knows how to be loose and have a great time. Anybody who was around for his 21st birthday can attest to that. Or even apparently his hiccups last night can attest to that as well.
So I remember when I first met Anoop, week one at Berkeley, at an info session for Net Impact Berkeley. He quickly became one of my closest friends, and even though we had absolutely nothing in common, I was a shy freshman, and he was the guy who called his mom to ask her permission to join Net Impact Berkeley. Unlikely friends for sure, but somehow Anoop has been a constant in my life for at least the last 10 years. He's someone who I have had the best late night conversations with, whether it's about politics, him educating me on the consequences of losing fantasy football by eating pancakes at IHOP, which is supposedly a bad thing, and overall someone I've always really looked up to. It's no wonder that I would always third wheel Ani and Anoop. And now, fast forward today, I often third wheel Anoop and Sakti. What I love most about their relationship is how naturally they fit together. Sakti, you've brought out a side of Anoop that we've never seen before. Before you, the Anoop we knew ate microwave chicken and lettuce every single day. And now here we are, Anoop locking in, eating healthy and more importantly, edible food to prep for your wedding. But real talk, you've turned our Snoop Dogg into someone even more thoughtful, grounded, and dare I say it, romantic.
So I've known Sakti for even longer than I've known Anoop. And these exact same qualities always stuck out to me about Sakti as well. And so I remember the first time that Anoop told Anika and me, he said, hey, I think you're Facebook friends with this girl that I just matched with on Hinge. He was asking if she was chill. And then I still remember Anika and I looked at each other and we were like, oh my God, they're so perfect for each other. We were even mad that we hadn't thought of this before. The fit was so obvious in retrospect. And fast forward almost 6 years later, and the fit is still true to this day. Sakti has somebody to join her on her sunrise Peloton rides or runs. Anoop has someone to sit by his side while he watches the Patriots lose every Sunday. And yeah, this perfect match is just so obvious. So cheers to Anoop and Sakti, and for this perfect match to continue for decades.
Strike me now. You're my love, Janeja, you're my love, you're my love, Janeja.
Please give it a big welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zach Valdman. We were all friends with Anoop in middle and high school, and still are kind of friends with him now. So I think the main purpose of our speech is to embarrass him a little bit today. Hopefully we'll bring some nice things in there, but it'll be a largely embarrassing endeavor, hopefully. My first memory of Anoop is a less than auspicious one. To set the scene and provide some context here, we were in middle school, 6th grade to be more precise, taking classes at Columbus Academy. My first memory of him, or more accurately, his name, came from looking at a large card that was sitting in Miss Corrigan's 6th grade science classroom at Columbus Academy. Now, for the life of me, I cannot remember the purpose of that card, but every single member of Columbus Academy's 6th grade class had signed it. I remember scanning the card to see if there were any names that I did not recognize, as it was fairly early on in the school year and I knew our grade had added some new members. Scanning the card, my eyes came across what seemed to be something strange. Something was off. The N in Anoop's name looked very much like a P. Taking a closer look, the N was indeed a P, resulting in the very unfortunate spelling of a poop. Now, this was a scandal in our small Midwestern college preparatory school. While I won't give the true name of the perpetrator, let's just call him Connell. It's safe to say that Connell was not invited to Mexico to celebrate with us today, but everyone in the grade knew who had committed this heinous crime. So my first distinctive memory of Anoop in the flesh was a 6th grade mandatory meeting in Mr. Carter's 6th grade social studies classroom. During that now infamous meeting, the powers that be at Columbus Academy decided that the best way to handle this unfortunate incident would be for the perpetrator to stand up in front of the entire grade, which was about 80 individuals or so crammed into an average-sized classroom at best, the perpetrator to admit his wrongdoing and to publicly apologize to Anoop for his actions. Now, I can respect the school for deciding that a public apology was necessary, although I now realize that the school probably committed at least 2 separate fire code violations in cramming 80 pre-adolescent children into a room with a max capacity of 25, but I digress. What came next, after Connell's apology, still confounds me. Rather than leave it at the apology, the teachers in the crowded room told Connell to remain standing. The teachers then told Anoop, the new kid not many of us knew, to stand up in front of the entire grade, face the perpetrator, and accept his apology. I don't know if Anoop knew he would be asked to stand in front of the whole grade, but by the sheepish look on his face and the blushing shade of red that I only thought was possible on white people, I'm guessing not. For the next few weeks, that slightly chubby boy who was new to a grade that largely all knew each other asked everyone to call him Krish. Now, since that fateful day, Anoop has clearly matured and gained self-assurance in himself and his heritage. in part thanks to the beautiful bride sitting next to him today. Krish, Apple, Anoop, is no longer that sheepish boy once afraid and embarrassed to stand up in front of the grade, but has matured into a fit, confident man, not afraid to stand up for himself and for what he believes in.
So as Zach has kind of said, we have known Anoop for a very long time. There are many ways I thought this story could go, but I'm going to take it to high school and spare you some middle school trauma. I think this is enough. So while I think we are all very familiar with Anoop's type A-ness, I think he's single-handedly kept Google Docs and Drive through planning this wedding. It wasn't that obvious in high school and middle school, but the time that it became obvious was our junior year. We had a class together, actually, Anoop, Zach, and I. We had a math class, and every day we would go home and do homework together and get the same grades on every homework and exam, and we obviously didn't cheat. No. It would never be us. But we studied throughout the whole year. This is our calc class, and we went to the APs, all passed, got 5s, got college credit for it. It's great, right? And except for Anoop. Anoop was not happy about any of that, because before we took the APs, we had to take this practice test. And again, on that exact same thing, I think we had the exact same answers on every single thing. Except Jen Murray, a name that will live in infamy to Anoop, gave me 1 extra point on that thing. I don't know why, but that 1 extra point contributed to Anoop getting an 89.4. Yes, you still, you're traumatized by this. And I got an 89.5. And so I walk up and, Jen Murray's like, oh, your 89.5 rounds up to a 90. You got an A. I'm like, oh, this is great. And I walk over to Noof. I'm like, haha, I got an A. Yeah, this is great. He's like, oh, she'll round mine up too. And he walks over. And 15 minutes, he's sitting there passionately talking to her. And I'm just like, what is going on over there? Well, he comes back and he's like, I got a B. She won't give this to me. So while I think the name Jen Murray sends Anoop into some kind of weird hysteria over a math teacher that did not impact his life that much, it's all right, because Berkeley still accepted this dum-dum. And I think this story highlights, a lot of what was said earlier about his drive, his character, which has driven a lot of his successes from coast to coast. And, you can say drive or hard-headedness. I don't know. Who do you choose? But he's also fought like hell for this wonderful woman that he has sitting next to him today. So.
All right, so I was a late addition to that small Midwestern school, largely getting to avoid a painful initiation like Anoop's. Instead, I joined the school while afflicted with a bout of drug-resistant whooping cough, which made it really easy for me to fly under the radar, coughing, 50, 60 times in an hour. In fact, the first class of the day, Heinzelman's AP Physics class. I'm new to the school. I'm like a shaking chihuahua. I don't know anybody. I don't know what's going on. I'm coughing like I'm hacking up a lung. And in the back of the classroom, these two goobers are sitting back there chuckling every single class. At the start of class, they would take bets on how many times I would cough. They would let me know during the break midway through the class how I was doing, whose bet was closer to coming to fruition. And at the end of class, they would laugh. One of them would win, one of them would lose, and I would be awkwardly confused and very lost. Anoop truly took his traumatizing, hard initiation into the Columbus Academy life, remembered it, and made sure to pass on the torch. In all honesty, though, he is a genuinely good man. And from that rough initiation and that rough first circumstance of getting to know him and the other members of the wolf pack, it has built itself into a lifelong friendship. He is one of the finest men I know, a man who is willing to stand up for what he believes in, who is willing to truly work to do good in the world. His jobs that he has held with the intent purpose, not just of collecting a salary, making money, but rather of truly trying to do something right, trying to do something just, trying to do something good, trying to change the world for the better. He's a man who aims for the sky and does damn well in reaching it. His hard work and striving has really come to a head when he started talking with a young woman out in his time in Berkeley. Sakthi, you have helped build him up, build his confidence, strengthen him, and provide him a stable base and support that he can lean on when he's not doing so hot, when the going does get tough, when circumstances outside of our control fall apart. And seeing you two together, I can't tell you how much joy it truly brings me. I love you, man. Love you, Sakthi. Congratulations. Congrats.
I'll be honest, when Sakthi and I first met, we didn't hit it off. But you can't put a lot of stock in how well a 1-year-old and newborn get along. Nevertheless, we do go back that far. After 3 or 4 years when we could speak and understand each other, we started to spend a lot of time together. Whether it was birthdays, dinner parties, or special holidays, it was a given that Sakthi and her family would be there. I became her Ishana, which is a combination of the first half of my first name, Ishwar, and Anna, which translates to older brother in Tamil. However, even though I was older, my parents enjoyed comparing me to Sakthi in all aspects of life. When I was 7, they would ask me, why does Sakthi read so many more books than you? And why does Sakthi do so much better at star testing than you? We'd have sleepovers, and they would even ask me, why does Sakthi brush her teeth so much better than you? Who could compete with this girl? I got a break from all the competing when my family and I moved to India for a couple years. After we came back, I suddenly had an epiphany and began to compete with Sakthi in school. I don't think she was aware that we were competing, but I took our competition very seriously. Our rivalry even took a dark turn when I mistreated Pandy, her stuffed panda bear. I'm pretty sure she's forgiven me for that, though. Needless to say, Sakthi has been a role model for me since the very beginning of our friendship. She has excelled in every aspect of life for as long as I can remember. She was always the perfect student, the perfect daughter, perfect friend, and maybe perfect sister, up to Kirti to decide. And now she's finally found the perfect husband. Even though I've only met Anoop a couple times, I know he supported her through the good and the bad. And when all this is over, he's even agreed to show me the secret behind finding the perfect woman on Hinge. Apparently it's all about the right settings. Who knew? I know I live far away from you both now, but for whatever it's worth, the very comfortable floor of my Manhattan apartment is always available for you whenever you visit, because I want to continue being your Ishana throughout the rest of our lives. I'm only one of many here with love in his heart for you both, so I ask everyone here to share that feeling by raising their glass. To my sister, Sakthi, and her new husband, Anoop. Cheers.